This episode of the Sloopcast is brought to you by the Mad Canadian Barbecue Company. The Mad Canadian Barbecue Company is an Ohio-based company where they usually say our season will take your barbecue from good to great. With great box options over at the madcanadianbbq.com, such as the Sweet Heat. This is their combination of sweet and heat seasonings that he has. Great for chicken wings, great for just a variety of options that you can use these for. Four Horsemen, Discord, Old Fashioned, and the Two Border is in that box set. Or the Just Send It. It's your versatile seasoning set. Your S&P buds, your salt and pepper. It's your salt and pepper.
You're turning southern on
mix.
Kyle.
Sonoran Heat, the Cajun, and the Smoked. Check out those and much, much more over at the MadCanadianBBQ.com. That is the MadCanadianBBQ.com. Use that promo code SloopCast10 at checkout for 10% off your entire order. Mad Canadian Barbecue Company, where they have your butt covered.
This episode of the Sloopcast is also brought to you by the Iron Bean Coffee Company. Who? The Iron Bean Coffee Company. They're an Ohio-based, veteran-owned micro roaster. They're out of Perrysburg, which is just outside of Toledo, Ohio. They are a company that does everything right. All of their beans are fair trade certified and USDA organic. They do all of their own importing of the beans. Many of their coffees are single origin, which means they all come from the same farm. It's not just a giant shipment of generic coffee beans. And I talk a lot about a lot of their coffees. One of the ones I've not talked about to this point is the Raging Tiger. Now, Kyle, I like a good bourbon barrel aged beer. Well, these beans have been barrel aged. You have to keep an eye on the site because the quantities are limited. They currently don't have any, but you got to keep an eye on the site. There's a notification thing. These sell out quickly. It's let's see, packaged in a Nordic whiskey bottle. There are here we go. 45 days aged in a whiskey barrel. So I know, and Nomad's not currently in the chat, but I know Nomad has bought a couple of these. I don't know if he's cracked it open yet or not. I have not yet had the pleasure. So we're gonna have to have a chat with Nomad to see if this is everything it is cracked up to be. And judging by all the customer reviews, it must be. I've not yet had the pleasure, but it's a thing to keep an eye on. So that's I'm gonna have to do it eventually. But you can find that coffee and a lot more coffees that are a lot more reliably in stock over at ironbeancoffee.com. That's Iron Bean Coffee, America's local coffee roaster. What's up, YouTube? This is our private YouTube conversation just for YouTube people. Everyone else is listening to our Black Keys intro that you can hear on the audio-only version. This, however, is the private YouTube conversation because YouTube doesn't screw around with media strikes.
Nope, they sure don't.
Kyle, did we get all of a sudden a little bit quiet on your end?
No, I'm good on my end here. Maybe a little bit.
I'm gonna bump the volume up just a tad.
Right.
Although we run filters and stuff over this, so probably no one listening is gonna notice, but I notice. Okay, I notice. All right, Kyle, we have a lot to get to today, so let's jump straight into it. That look on Kyle's face is like liar.
We got a fun episode though, so let's get
absolutely.
Into it.
You've got barbecue back here. You're all invited. Welcome to the Sloopcast. How are you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing all right here. How are you doing, Jared?
It's early. We're still in upper phase of the day. So if anything breaks late on Sunday, sorry.
Just blame me.
Whenever we have to record at a weird hour, it's almost always Kyle's fault because he actually has a life.
I got my wife's little brother has a big regional soccer game where if they win, they get to play nationals. So he's in he's in a club soccer league. So it's a big game today.
Pull that mic in right to your face there, Kyle. I feel like you're drifting.
Yep, I'm kind of backing up and then getting right into it. All right. Let's get into it. Let's cover some Buckeye news. The very few news, just little news that we got in the past week here.
Stuart, it is too early.
Scheduling changes.
Hold on, Stuart. We have been over this. It is too early to mow your lawn on for a weekend.
No, we agreed, Jared.
No.
It's after 9 a.m.
No.
He is perfectly fine.
No.
9 a.m.
No.
is fine.
No, sir.
I'm all good with Stuart. As long as he didn't do it at 8:59, 9:01, you're good.
This is an ongoing thing in the Discord. All right. Yeah. So sorry, Kyle. You were saying.
Okay. Ooh, I don't know about that, Stuart. All right. Buckeyes and Oregon scheduling another home and home. Well, not really another because COVID and stuff, but they scheduled a home and home for 2032 and 2033.
Technically, they did schedule a home and home. It just didn't. Just didn't pan out that way.
Yeah. So 32 and 33. You know, I like seeing these big time matchups. It's just too far away.
Yeah, and this isn't a Ohio State problem, nor is it an Oregon problem. It's just a college football problem that they schedule these things so far out in advance. And I'd like to see that change, but it would take cooperation across conferences. And if last year taught us anything, there is none. So,
yeah. Gene Smith getting an extension. There was a lot of rumors, a lot of going around about, is Gene Smith heading out west to be the Pac-12 commissioner? Right. Nope. He decides he wants to stay at Ohio State. And
for the record, I don't know he was offered the job. I don't know if it was his decision to make, but
yeah. Oh, true. But either way, Gene Smith getting an extension at Ohio State.
Yeah, the Pac-12 was looking outside of academics for their commissioner, and they followed through on that. I think the person they picked up is, I think, on the media side of sports. So I'm not 100% sure. And Kyle, do not look it up because I do not care. It's fine.
Oh, it's probably a good thing because you're gonna probably struggle pronouncing his last name.
There we go. So it never happened.
Okay. Right.
And just for the record, I like Gene Smith. I know that a lot of Ohio State fans do not like Gene Smith, and I get why. I do think there were things mishandled, especially around Tatgate and other stuff. And so I'm not saying that he's done a 100% perfect job at Ohio State. That's not at all what I'm saying. But I will say he was a huge advocate for the university and the football team and for fall sports in general last year. And I think he deserves a ton of credit for that. I think that he hired Urban Meyer, which took this program over the hump. And I think that he also made great basketball hire in, did he hire Thad Matta? Well, regardless, he hired Holtman, so that was great. He and Urban sort of together kept the band together by putting Ryan Day in charge of the football program. That's turned out to be a great decision. A lot has been right with Gene Smith. And I'm not excusing the things that went wrong. I'm just saying he's also done a lot of things right.
Yep. Speaking of future games, the early point favorite has been announced.
Yeah.
Ohio State, 11.5 point favorite over the Skunk Bears up north.
Man, I feel like that's a steal. Is that a steal? Like, don't real life gamble,
I think so.
And if you are going to real life gamble, for God's sakes, do not take my advice. But I feel like that number is only going to get bigger as the season goes.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Last thing here, kind of reiterate from last week's episode. Not this weekend, but the following weekend, June 4th weekend. So June 4th through the 6th is the weekend for recruiting for Ohio State.
Yeah.
A lot of big time prospects coming into Ohio State for a visit. Be sure to check out last week's episode for more information as we go in depth about players coming in for the visit and who to keep an eye out for.
Yeah. It's like Kyle said, something we went in depth on last week. We provided 16 names, many of whom are visiting on June 4th. 16 names of uncommitted players who I think are among the most likely, out of that pool, are among the most likely to join the Ohio State class.
Yep. All right, Jared, let's get into the meat of the episode here.
Yes, let's. So one of the things we like to do over in the Discord channel is ask people to not just provide us Ask Sloopcast questions, standard Ask Sloopcast questions, but we also ask for what we call wasteland topics. And a wasteland topic is for this time when we're sort of after the draft, but before the fall camps, and we don't necessarily have a ton of Ohio State news. We call this area the wasteland, and we ask for wasteland topics. Basically, they're just Ask Sloopcast questions, but require a lot more time to sort of talk about and figure out. So that's what we're doing today. And this wasteland topic comes from Duncan, who we affectionately refer to as Duncan from the Discord. He says, pick a team or more. He said 2, but we're doing a lot more than 2 today, Duncan. Pick a team or more that year after year is great, but can't seem to get over the hump to the elite. He name checks a few teams here. Diagnose what's keeping them from making the jump and what they need to do. Nope, that's not what he said. And and what is it they do so well that keeps them almost elite? So Kyle, we made a list of teams here. And I mean, I stretched this question a little bit. So I think we have some teams here that are pretty good that need to make that jump into great. We have a couple teams here that are great that need to make that jump into elite. So I sort of broadened the question out a tad. So Kyle, where would you like to start? Pick a name out of the list.
Honestly, let's start with teams in the Big Ten.
All right.
Let's do teams in the Big Ten, and I think let's go out to the, as we like to classify them, as the Big Northwest Conference.
Okay.
Division. Let's go
just
to Wisconsin.
For the record, that's Big North West, not Big Northwest.
Yes. Wisconsin. Go with Wisconsin, the team that, for the most part,
Sure.
Year in and year out, always seems to be really good, gives top tier teams troubles when they play them, big offensive linemen, big running back play, and just stellar defense overall.
Yet is never brought up when people start talking playoffs. no reputable person out there is putting Wisconsin in their playoff. Why? So why? Why is Wisconsin always around, always pretty good, always winning lots of games, but never quite making it over that hump?
And they're always, it seems like they're always the pick to win their division, their side there.
Yeah, I would say more often than not, them Northwestern, Iowa seem to be those teams. But yeah, Wisconsin, I would definitely say, is probably the most likely year in, year out.
Yeah, and for them, I feel like there was a couple years when they got to that elite level and they had a. I'll get to it. And I know you're giving me this look, Jared, but there was a couple of years where they were up there when they were getting a lot of great recognition. And it was because they had offensive firepower. It wasn't just so much, oh, we're going to run 3-4 yards per play and just wear you down. They had a great quarterback. They had a couple of good receivers. They just couldn't put it all together in the end, too. And I'm talking about that. Was it around 2010 time when Wilson came over to Wisconsin? That type of year there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think quarterback play has a lot to do with it. Not all of it, because it's good. It's not like Russell Wilson showed up and they became a national title contender. So let's not say it's all quarterback play, because it's not. I think Wisconsin is a team that can, if we sort of talk about how do you get over that hump, which I think is something we should talk about. How do you not just, why aren't they getting over the hump? How could they get further over it? I think Wisconsin's a team that can benefit greatly from the transfer portal. Russell Wilson was one of those first big time instant transfers back when, the graduate transfer was just starting to become a normal thing. And, they are getting better at recruiting quarterbacks. I think it's an offensive firepower issue, and obviously not running backs. That's been a Wisconsin thing for a very long time, having very good running backs. And one of the things that keeps them in that top whatever area, in that sort of top contender area, at least within their division in the Big Ten, is the fact that they have consistently very good offensive lines. Consistently very good offensive lines. That will take you a long way, and it has taken Wisconsin a long way. So how are they always sort of up here, even if they're not getting up here? Offensive line play. I would say another thing that's holding them back is a lack of consistent athleticism in the defense. Their defenses are always very solid, but aside from an occasional from an occasional defensive back here or there, their defenses are mostly solid, but not great. I think
for me, Jared, and I think I'm going to get a lot of discussed takes here. Really reminds me of like Big Ten in general.
Yeah.
In the mid to late or really the 2000s. Solid defense.
Pre-urban Big Ten. It's the pre-urban Big Ten.
But then all of a sudden you go into bowl season and you get to play teams that are more athletic, and you see why there's that difference then.
Yeah, it's sort of like why when people talk about, when you hear, and I know Ohio State fans, Big Ten fans, they don't want to hear this, but when you hear the term SEC speed, that doesn't mean that there aren't any fast players in the Big Ten. That means that in the SEC and at Ohio State and other elite schools. So we're also talking about Clemson, and we're also talking about other elite schools here. But when you're talking about like that SEC speed thing, we're not just talking about the wide receivers or the defensive backs. We're talking about the defensive linemen. who have like that twitch, who have that instant get up and go. You know, it's more of a general team speed than it is a, you know, fastest player versus fastest player thing. And I think that's one of the problems with Wisconsin and a lot of the teams in the Big Ten is a lack of consistent athleticism.
Yep. Agreed. All right. We got a lot here. I know we could spend a lot of time on Wisconsin, but let's move on to another team. Going out east here, are not rivals Penn State.
Yeah, not our rivals. I think I have to put a lot of this on James Franklin.
100%. That's
not
my
100%.
First. Well, that's my thought. That's my thought right away there. I feel like great recruiter. I think he's a great motivator, but I think as an in-game coach,
absolutely
is not good. He's not good. He's made some very, very questionable decisions.
Overly conservative.
In some of the like big games, whether it's against Ohio State, against Michigan, against bowl games, whatever the case may be, very questionable. And just, again, kind of like with Wisconsin, not consistent, but not consistent team, but I think more so it's the questionable play calling down the stretch.
Play calling and just game management in general. He's a terrible game manager. James Franklin is a terrible game manager. And I think there's a cultural issue at Penn State. I don't see a cohesive team a lot of the times when I see Penn State. That's just my feeling on that. And again, when you talk about culture, that is that's a coaching issue. I mean, that's a cultural issue is a Penn State head coach issue. And
honestly, Jared, let's combine this with Michigan too. I feel like what's happening Penn State is similar.
I feel
to
like what's
Michigan
happening
too.
at Michigan is more complicated than Penn State. Personally,
but I feel like what you're saying really carries over to Michigan as well.
As far as there just being a culture issue, absolutely. But yeah, I think Penn State recruits well. I think they were recruiting better, but I think that the shine has come off of the James Franklin era at Penn State. I think James Franklin probably was the perfect hire at that time, and he absolutely brought Penn State up back to a certain point. But I don't think sometimes you're not the guy that gets to the promised land, but sometimes you're the guy that gets you to the guy that gets you to the promised land. And I think James Franklin was that. And I think that when he does leave Penn State, he will leave it better than he found it. Mm-hmm. And I think he deserves a ton of credit for that, but I don't think he's the guy to get Penn State to the national title.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a lack of players there too. I mean, since 2017, so the past 5 recruiting cycles, top 15 in each year, and even as high as 6th, I believe. So looking at 2020, 15th, 2019, 12th, 2017, 15, 2018, 6th. They had the 6th best in 2018 here.
Yeah.
Like it's at that point, talent's there. It's got to be on the coaches to, whether it's motivation, culture, whatever the case may be there. I feel like this really brings up a quote that I recall Urban Meyer saying a couple of years ago, I believe, and this goes a lot into Michigan as well, or I'll just kind of start reading it here. Urban Meyer was quoted here: "Every time I see a team struggle, every time it's fallen into one of 3 issues. 1, it's a trust issue with coaches and players. If the players don't trust the coaches don't trust the players, or it's awful if the players just don't trust each other."
That to me feels very Michigan right now.
Yeah. It's a dysfunctional work environment where the expectation is very high, but we don't work hard. I can't say for certain that's Michigan and or Penn State, but
right.
And the last one is you got a selfish team. Football is an unselfish sport. You have to do the nasty. If I'm a running back, I got to go and protect my quarterback. Don't always get to carry the ball, and sometimes you have to go running down a kickoff 22 miles an hour and throw yourself into someone going 15 miles an hour on the other way. It's not fun, but it's what you do. You love your team and teammates.
Yeah. And it's hard to say exactly what is wrong within Penn State, but I think I was going to say he was talking more so at the time. I forget which year this was, but it had to be he was directing 2020.
Yeah, he was directing this to Penn State, LSU, and Michigan.
Which means it had to have been 2020 because remember, Penn State dropped the first 4 games last year. LSU tanked last year without Joe Burrow, and Michigan's Michigan. Yeah, I don't know exactly what's wrong with Penn State, but I think it's probably time to move on from Franklin because I just think it's probably time. He's a terrible game manager, and I kind of just don't feel like, again, if we're talking number 1, where there are trust issues, I'm starting to feel like maybe that's what's going on with Penn State, where it's just maybe Franklin's time has come and everyone knows it, which translates us perfectly into Michigan.
Yes.
And no one thinks Harbaugh is going to be there in 2 years. Does anyone think, come on, someone raise their hand. Does anyone think that Jim Harbaugh is the head coach at Michigan 2 seasons from now?
I think every Ohio State fan wants to raise their hand.
Yeah, no. I didn't ask what you want. I asked, what do you think is going to happen? Is he still the head coach at Michigan in 2 years, Kyle?
For those in audio, Jared and I are not raising our hands.
No, we are not. For the audio only listeners, our hands are down. No one thinks that. So why would you go? Why would you go there and play? It's sort of like what happened with Tom Herman at Texas. Urban Meyer basically orchestrated an entire thing where Texas went after Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer, I don't know if I would guess, leaked the fact that Texas was courting him through his media people, his media buddies, basically to undermine Tom Herman as a giant middle finger to Tom Herman for everything that Tom Herman did to Urban Meyer. And at that point, Texas had no choice but to fire Tom Herman after that, because there's no going back. You can't keep going with the football program after it became public knowledge that you were trying to replace him. And so that's part of the problem, and we'll get to Texas. That's part of the problem there, but that's also part of the problem with Michigan. No one seemed eager to re-sign here. Harbaugh was talking to NFL teams. Michigan wasn't trying very hard to re-sign him this offseason, and they finally do get a contract. And it's a contract that basically has no buyout clause. And in college football, that's as good as a 1-year contract. It's as good as a 1-year contract. That's all it is. I don't care how long the term of the contract is. It's like an NFL player signing a contract with no guaranteed money. If there's no guaranteed money on an NFL contract, it's meaningless. It's absolutely meaningless. And that's what Harbaugh is currently under at Michigan. So you want to talk about a lack of trust. Harbaugh doesn't trust Michigan. Michigan doesn't trust Harbaugh. And everyone, including the players, know it. So why would the players instill any trust in Michigan or Harbaugh? You want to talk
Yep,
about
and
trust issues? It's all Michigan is right now.
look at all of the transfers going out of there, not just players,
Right.
but coaches too.
Yeah, anyone who has a chance to go elsewhere is going elsewhere. They had a kid go to Tennessee, and Tennessee's nearly as big a dumpster fire as Michigan right now. Like, if you're leaving what is supposed to be a top tier program to go to Tennessee, you know that's a problem.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that's number one of what Urban Meyer said. Trust issue. Number two here, dysfunctional work environment.
Yeah. Again, with all due respect to Urban Meyer, one leads to two here. Like, if there are no trust issues, then the work environment's dysfunctional.
Yeah. And part of me too, like you see a lot of the games with Michigan the past few years. I really think it really comes down to execution a lot of the time with Michigan. I think the play calling's fine. I think what Urban, what Jim Harbaugh has done at Michigan. I think he's doing it well. I think he's doing it well in terms of play calling, especially like in tight scenario games. It just really comes down to execution. There's just the execution from the players is just not clicking. It's just not there.
I feel like the turning point for Michigan, or maybe the turning point that wasn't for Michigan, was the revenge tour. Michigan was back. When was Michigan going to be back? Everyone keeps asking, when's Michigan going to be back? When's Michigan going to be back?
This wasn't one of those, oh, Texas is back. No, this was Michigan was a really good team, and Ohio State fans were like, uh-oh.
Yeah, that was a really, really good Michigan team, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They were good enough on the offensive side of the ball. Defensive side of the ball.
I think at one point they were like number one in pass and rushing defense.
Yeah.
Like they were stout defense.
And that was the year to turn around Michigan. And then what happens when they showed up to the Horseshoe?
I was saying, and then Columbus happened.
They didn't just lose. Like, it sucks when you lose, but Ohio State said, oh, you got the number one defense in the country. Let us carve that to pieces for you. And it just ran them off the field. And I feel like it's just all gone downhill from there. And that was the beginning of the end for the Harbaugh era.
Mm-hmm. Even though it's still going on, it's still...
Oh, yeah, we're not at the end of the Harbaugh era yet. That was the beginning of the end of the Harbaugh era. And speaking of the Harbaugh era, let's go to Toledo.
What I was going to say.
Let's go to Toledo, which is not Michigan. That's where you stop. When you get to Toledo, just stop. Nothing good happens after Toledo. Also, when you stop at Toledo, make sure to stop at the Iron Bean Coffee Company. The Iron Bean Coffee Company is an Ohio-based, veteran-owned, micro-batch, roast-to-order coffee company. They have all of the amazing coffees. Basically, do you like a medium roast? Do you like a dark roast? Do you like a flavored coffee? Do you like unflavored coffees? Do you like not just a dark roast, but maybe you want to even go to the next level and get a straight up black roast? That's right. They go next level and get to an absolutely black roast coffee. That is the Fear No Evil. The Fear No Evil, like I said, black roast coffee, roasted beyond dark. So if you're a dark coffee person, try your hand at this. It has a smell is smoky, exotic, and rich. The taste is bold. They monitor it while roasting with all five of their senses. Rich black, dark roast, void of all light. The sheen is like polished armor. It feels like cocoa. It is butter smooth. This is from a diverse geographic patchwork of sedimentary rocks and volcanic streams from Indonesia. Coax the bean along the razor's edge straight into the valley of death. That's right. That's right. By the way, I said this last week. Whoever writes these things, I don't know if it's I don't know who writes these things, but they're brilliant. I love all of the writing on the Iron Bean Coffee Company website. I love all of it. So low in acidity, high in flavor, never bitter, completely smooth taste. A lot of the things you necessarily wouldn't expect out of a black roast, but here we are. So you can pick up that coffee, or you can pick up a lot of other coffees, including more of a traditional dark roast or some medium roast. And they even got the Loki, which is a light medium roast. It's a medium light roast. So you can check out all those things over at ironbeancoffee.com. That's Iron Bean Coffee, America's local coffee roaster.
And once you're done in Toledo, head down I-75 for about 45 minutes, an hour, depending on how fast you go, and go
30 minutes
and meet up.
Me.
30 minutes and go meet up the Mad Canadian Barbecue Company in Cary, Ohio. Mad Canadian has been a sponsor of ours for a long time now. A long time. Great guy with maybe even better seasonings.
And great guy, better seasonings, even better than that, his beard. So if we're going tier, 1 beard, 2 seasoning, 3 great guy.
Yes.
But it's all real close.
Mention some of the seasoning or some of the boxes that you can purchase over at the MadCanadianBBQ.com. Let me go into some of them here. The Discord here, which is an interesting one. You're like, Discord? Never heard of that before. Well, it's because of the great community we have in our Discord, which you can find in the doobly-doos down below. Discord.com. Where our fellow listeners in our Discord have tested it out. He sent different seasonings out to them and said, hey, try this out. And he says here, we test here. The issue we have is sometimes one of our seasonings is really awesome in 2 different ways. He had the 4 Horsemen, his really spicy one. And then came up with the Discord, which is a different blend that has a sweeter base to it. Still spicy, not as spicy, but it gives it that unique flavor.
There are people that disagree with you.
That's different than the 4 Horsemen.
I agree with you. I think the 4 Horsemen is slightly spicier. But if you take that question down to the Discord, there are people who would tell you that the Discord is actually a tad spicier. I don't know why. I agree with you.
Yeah, it's great for chicken.
I think the sweet takes a little bit of the heat off, but I apparently people disagree with us.
Great on chickens, ribs, and heck, I even heard somebody put it on their burger too. Give it that little bit of spiciness to the burger too. Why not? Explore out. Check that seasoning and much more over at the MadCanadianBBQ.com. That is the MadCanadianBBQ.com. Use that promo code SLOOPCAST10 at checkout for 10% off your entire order. Mad Canadian Barbecue Company, where he has your butt covered.
All right, Kyle. Where do you want to go next?
I think since we spent a lot of time in the Big Ten here, I think we need to move a little bit quicker if we want to get through. I don't know if you want to get through. We know the Big Ten.
We know the Big Ten teams more, so obviously we're going to talk about them more.
All right, you know what? Big Ten country. Let's go with Notre Dame.
Yeah, Notre Dame, I think, is trying. I think you talk about like that next hump. They made the playoffs last year, which was a new thing for them. First playoff appearance last year.
They beat Clemson.
What's that?
They beat Clemson.
They beat Clemson in the regular season. Absolutely. So Notre Dame definitely got over a hump last year. So, if we're putting teams in tiers where it's like you have that top tier, which we have talked about many times on this show, is basically Ohio State, Alabama, and Clemson. That's your top tier. Then you have a second tier, which has more teams in it. I wouldn't have put Notre Dame in that tier last year at this time. I think I would put them in that tier at this time. Would you, Kyle? Would you say they're in that very, very good second tier of teams?
Absolutely. And their recruiting says wise too. 15th, 18th, and then they had the 9th best last year too. So it's really going to come down to how are these players going to develop. And once you get over that hump, this is the year to really figure out Notre Dame. Are they going to continue to stay over that hump there and be able to compete, be that team that everybody talks about. Who's going to make the playoffs this year? Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, and Notre Dame.
Yeah, right now that team has mostly been Oklahoma to this point. Maybe Notre Dame, it becomes that fourth team. Georgia sort of is in that conversation as well. So Notre Dame, I think it's just going to take a couple years, maybe. I think is basically it. And I think that they got over a hump last year and that it takes time. So I think Notre Dame's trending positively right now. I feel like we're going to say a lot of bad things about a lot of teams. So let's be positive here. I think Notre Dame is trending positively. Can they keep it up?
No, absolutely. As far as like what's hurt them in the past,
I'd say it was mostly talent.
I really think it was talent, and they just got outmatched with athleticism versus just.
Let me also say this, and it's never one player, but like Ian Book was only ever going to get them so far, and is Ian Book back? He's back, right? He didn't enter the draft. Because I think it was supposed to be his last year, but like last year didn't technically count for anyone. So maybe it's Ian Book. Because he's gotten better through the years, but I still don't think he's a guy that I think to win a national title. No.
Nope. He did. He is unsigned draft pick.
Okay. So
New Orleans.
I don't know what's coming after Ian Book. I've not deep dove the Notre Dame depth chart. And even if I knew who the name was, I wouldn't necessarily know if he was any good. I don't know. I don't know a lot about Notre Dame to this point. I've not spent a great deal of time looking at them. But maybe that's it. Maybe it's an elite quarterback. If they have a Joe Burrow coming, we saw what Joe Burrow did for LSU. Maybe that's it for Notre Dame. Maybe it's just maybe it's just getting a quarterback capable of winning a national title.
Sure. Would you be surprised if I told you that Ian Book was the winningest quarterback in history at Notre Dame?
They started him as a freshman, and so not necessarily, no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they got
how many quarterbacks started 4 years at Notre Dame?
Yeah.
That's it's just a numbers game.
Yep. Yeah, it looks like it's a quarterback battle there at Notre Dame. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. So it really might just be that simple. All right. I mentioned Georgia. What's it for Georgia? What's getting them over that hump? Is it Nick Saban retiring? Is that what it's going to take?
I think part of it is that, but I think the other thing too, I think a lot of it's that execution part I've mentioned in other teams too. There's been some parts where it just isn't clicking in that down that stretch there.
Can I throw this kind of comes down to execution. Kirby Smart has a real bad habit of not starting the correct quarterback.
Yeah.
He kept Justin Fields on the bench. That was a mistake. The USC transfer, whose name I can't remember, they didn't put him on the field until late into the season when it was already too late. I feel like Kirby Smart is kind of stupid, I think is what it boils down to as far as making personnel decisions, at least at quarterback.
Daniels. JT.
Thank you. JT Daniels.
Yeah. But now you know who's going to be the starting quarterback or potentially is that starting quarterback this year?
Who's that?
Buckeye fans should know this name. Dwan Mathis.
Well, he was supposed to be the guy last year too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we don't have time.
Oh no, I'm sorry. No, that's right. He's not. That's right. He transferred.
Yeah, I thought so, but I wasn't going to question you on it because it looked like you were looking it up.
He's becoming an owl now.
An owl?
I think an owl's.
Rice?
Temple.
Oh, Temple. Is Rice also the Owls? It's, I don't care. It's fine. We're moving forward. Georgia is basically start the right quarterback. Nick Saban retiring, start the right quarterback is what Georgia needs to get over the hump.
There we go.
Florida. Let's stay in the SEC East. What about Florida? They had the right quarterback this year. They had the right wide receivers this year. Defense looked solid enough. Florida looked like a real good team at times this year, but still finished the season 8-4.
This list here that we have here, they're honestly the toughest one for me to point out because it's like talent's there, play calling's there, coaching seems to be there. Like, then what is it? What is it? Is it kind of like what you mentioned about Georgia? Is it because of Nick Saban?
Yeah. Like, is it just the general competitive level of the SEC, which again, I know Ohio State and Big Ten fans who listen to this podcast don't hear it, is higher.
But we got to figure out like what's for Florida here. What is it that gets them over that hump?
Yeah, I mean, I personally do not like Dan Mullen. And I'm not saying it's because of him. I'm not saying that because I really don't have anything to, maybe I just personally don't like him. But I just personally don't like him. So maybe that's what it is for me. So yeah, I don't have a strong feeling here or there. Maybe they're just sort of starting to trend in the right direction and they just need to recruit, and they recruit well. I'm not saying that they don't, but when you're comparing them to the top two recruiting teams in the SEC, which is Georgia and Bama, they're not quite recruiting at that level.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the last few years here, Jared, they were going back to 2018, 10-3, 11-2, and last year 8-4. They're right there winning that, like on winning average there. They're pretty much the same there. It's getting over that hump there of probably losing to those teams consistently. Like it's, I don't know. Like what is it? Is it consistency, play calling, or just execution?
This is one of those times where I really wish Austin was in the chat because he attends Florida and, follows them closely. So I'd really like to have his opinion on it. So maybe he can let us know afterwards. But I really don't have a good beat on Florida other than just the SEC being very deep.
And that's why I said of this list that we have here, that's why I always struggle. I struggle really pinpointing them. And I just struggle trying to figure out exactly what it is that gets them over that hump. Because like, I'm just looking at all of their losses and all that. Like last year they lost to Texas A&M, who was a good team.
Very good.
They did lose to LSU, which was not a good.
Yeah,
I guess that is a consistency I am seeing. They do drop a game. Like I seen 2018, they lost to Kentucky,
right?
And then in 2017, they lost a bunch of games, including Missouri and South Carolina. So maybe that's what it is. They
consistency.
2016 Arkansas,
which
maybe that's where we need to come to an agreement here. Then Jared, it's that consistency, not letting up, even if it's to lesser opponents than the players that you have on your team. It's that consistency week in, week out.
Yeah. We brought up Texas A&M. Let's real quick. I think Texas A&M's a team on a positive trend. They finished in the top 4 last year, post playoffs. They're a team that could have arguably made the playoffs last year. I think they're trending in the right direction, and it's just, you're in the same division as Alabama, and like, God bless you. That's is basically what it boils down to. I think maybe they're a quarterback away. If they're able to develop an elite quarterback, or bring one in via the transfer portal, pull an LSU. Why not? I think maybe they're a quarterback away, and maybe it's just a result of being in the division with Alabama and that just being it for them.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to just. Yeah, it's tough. I agree with you. I think they are trending in the right way. Like looking at their schedule the past couple of games here, or past couple of years here, definitely trending in the right direction. Like 2018 and 19, they had a home and home with Clemson.
Yeah.
So they got the taste right then and there of playing that elite team. Right. Other than Alabama, they play every year too. So I mean, boy, that's a schedule right there. Clemson and Alabama in the same year in the regular season.
Yeah. Texas A&M does not need to be taking that game. Like, I'm all for people scheduling tough. Texas A&M does not need to be. Of course, that's the thing. When was that game actually scheduled, and was Clemson the current version of Clemson at that point in time? They probably weren't.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true.
All right, Kyle.
But no, I think with Texas A&M, honestly, keep doing what you're doing, and you keep recruiting well. You keep playing these teams, and like looking at 2019. It was close to Clemson. It was close to Georgia. It was kind of close to Alabama, but then you got your butts kicked against LSU. And then, like looking at last year,
just one loss last year.
They had the one loss to Alabama, and it took care of business every year. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, Nick Saban. Hey, Texas A&M. Saban will retire eventually. It's fine. Just keep at it, guys. You'll be fine.
Yep. All right, Texas. Jared, Texas.
This is their board and their boosters. I feel like Texas is a completely toxic program where coaches are not given the benefit of the doubt, who are given up on too quickly. I feel like the problem at Texas is all their administrative people, their boosters who feel like they own the program. And I feel like they're ruining the program.
What I mentioned about Urban Meyer's quote at the beginning of the show, all three right here, all three.
Yeah. I think the board, I think not the board, the boosters just need to let the people in charge do their job and stay the hell out of the way. But they're not going to do that. So I don't know how you fix Texas, because the people who are filling the purses are the people who are ruining the program.
Blinders. They need blinders.
Maybe. I mean, but if the booster says, I'm not going to give you money anymore, like, who are you firing? Who's losing their job because you're not answering emails from the boosters?
We like to make fun of Michigan for being disorganized and just going into chaos right now. Texas is bad. Texas is bad.
Yeah, again, because I think that, how do you fix it?
You got to have the right. You got to have the right leader in the university to have those conversations with the boosters. Then that's where it starts. Is that leadership at the top level?
You need a president and an athletic director who are going to stick up to the board, or to the boosters. You know what the problem is, Kyle, though? Who really ends up hiring the president and the athletic director?
There we go.
I don't know how you fix Texas. I do know how you fix Oklahoma.
Yes.
Play defense. Next.
play defense and keep looking for the for quarterbacks to constantly come into your in the transfer portal to come in.
Kyle, USC. How does USC get back to be USC? Keep the kids in California. If there's a kid who plays for Mater Day, the only reason they shouldn't be playing for USC is because USC didn't want them. And by the way, they should be owning Bishop Gorman too. Nevada's not that far away. Las Vegas is not that far away. They should be owning every kid out of Bishop Gorman. Keep the West Coast kid. You know what? They shouldn't be letting Ohio State take all those kids out of Washington like they've been doing. Emeka Ibuka, G. Scott Jr., JTT, I still feel is coming to Ohio State. Those kids should not be leaving the Pac-12. If USC is losing kids out of Washington, it better be to Washington or Oregon, but not to Ohio State. Keep the West Coast kids on the West Coast. That is how you fix USC.
Consistency recruiting, along with what you're saying there too. Back in 2019, 20th, 2020, 64th. And then last year, better. They had the 7th best. So consistency recruiting as well.
Absolutely.
Not just keeping your recruits in the state consistently overall, just recruiting in general. And the rest will follow because of the conference that they're in. I think they can handle it. They can really just
they can win the Pac-12
as much as we Ohio State fans want talent. To rise up all of the other teams that Ohio State plays. Like, oh, Penn State's a tough team. Michigan's a tough team. Wisconsin's a tough team. There really isn't in the Pac-12 right now. There really isn't. This is USC's for the taking. Really, anybody's for the taking to.
We'll see what happens
Oregon or
Washington.
Anybody else to just take over.
We'll see what happens with Washington because Washington had a terrible 2020, but they had a brand new head coach. They had lost a lot of talent, and then COVID. So I'm giving Washington a pass for 2020. That was too much to overcome. Oregon lost a lot of their top players who opted out of the season. I kind of just want to give the entire conference a pass on 2020. But
all right, Jared.
Yeah, let's move on.
Last one here that I have. Yeah, I got it highlighted in our notes here.
Yeah, no. Let's take those fingers and point it right back at us. Ohio State. Ohio State got over a hump last year. Okay, so you're Ohio State, and we always talk about the top 3, right? Who is it? It's Bama. It's Ohio State. It's Clemson. Those are your top 3 programs in the country consistently. Problem is that Ohio State is constantly finding themselves either second or third out of that top 3. They got over a hump this year. They got to 2 because you could, and I don't know how I would tell you otherwise, previous to last year said, well, actually it's a top 2. Ohio State's down in that second group. It's really just a top 2. It's really just Clemson and Bama. And by the way, they had played in the national title game 2 times in a row previous to that. Not previous to that, previous to LSU winning it. I think they had played twice in a row. Bama has made the playoffs every year except for the year that LSU won. Clemson, I think, has made every playoff except the first one.
Yep.
So you could have very easily said, and by the way, you could still, you're a little less successful because Ohio State beat Clemson, which is the first hump that they got over, and saying, yeah, we belong in that top 3. So Ohio State, I think, if you're talking, and when you get up to the top, it just keeps getting smaller, the opportunity you have to improve. Ohio State, to me, last year, confirmed that they belong in that top 3 with LSU and Bama.
Agree. And now how do you get from that?
Now, how do you not get embarrassed by Alabama in the national title game?
Yeah. How to get to that tiny step up to get to that top pedestal there? Like, what is it Ohio State needs to do? In my eyes, and again, this was a number of years ago, and I don't think it really applies to today, but it's still in the back of my mind. I mentioned this with a couple of teams already. Consistency. Yeah. Consistency week in and week out.
Which we've seen better consistency out of Ryan Day than we've seen out of Urban Meyer.
Yes. No. And that's why I said I don't think it applies to now, but it's still in the back of my mind previously. Like you see, like
Purdue, Iowa,
like Michigan games like
State.
that. And, Yeah, it's games like that you can't have you can't and shouldn't have at Ohio State with the amount of talent that is there right now.
Or if you do have them, recover from them. Ohio State had a couple stinkers last year, but they came back. Ohio State's had a couple stinkers against Penn State, but launched comebacks. So I think Ryan Day, I'm not saying Ryan Day's a better, I want to be very clear. I'm not saying Ryan Day is a better coach than Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer is one of the top coaches of all time in college football. Urban Meyer is, of his generation, it's like him and Saban. Saban's one. Like, we can all just agree to that. But Urban's two. And so I'm not saying Ryan Day is a better head coach than Urban Meyer. I'm not saying that. However, I do think that Ryan Day is a better game day coach than Urban Meyer. I got real tired of Ohio State struggling and Ohio State's offense going and just doing a bunch of quarterback draws because it became predictable. And
everybody knew that. And the coaches on the other side of the sideline knew that too.
It almost became a compulsive thing. I mean, we made fun of it on this show. We called it the Save Us Braxton offense. Then we called it the Save Us JT offense, where it was just, okay, I guess we're just running quarterback draws for the rest of the game.
Yep.
So what does Ohio State have to do, Kyle, to get to that next level? To at least, I don't think you're, as long, again, like we said with Texas A&M, maybe it just takes Nick Saban retiring, because I just don't see the tread coming off of that Bama train. Tread on a train. That doesn't work, but work with me anytime soon.
I mean, that's the easiest solution. Say, hey, the best coach retire. But also, I think for taking that off the table, I think for Ohio State, it's just staying focused. I think staying focused is a good phrase I'll use here. Just staying focused at every week of who's in front of you, not get ahead of yourself, because we're to the point where there's a lot of teams. I mean, I'm looking at Indiana, who's getting better, getting a lot more athletes.
I almost put Indiana on this list, but like they're getting over a new hump every year. So whatever they're doing, it's working.
Yeah. I mean, they're getting athletes that Ohio State's seen. It's given Ohio State troubles.
Kyle.
Yeah.
Two players. Indiana has flipped 2 players from Ohio State in recent times. Now, there are circumstances with the latest one with Deshaun McCullough. His dad literally got hired by the university. His brother transferred to Indiana. There are circumstances there, but the fact of the matter is that they did it. When was the last time that Michigan or Penn State flipped a player from Ohio State? I'll hang up and listen.
All right. So mine is staying focused. What's yours for Ohio State? Like, if you can sum it up in a sentence or a few words.
I keep doing what you're doing. That Ohio State's defense had issues last year, and we all knew it. And Alabama's offense was unstoppable last year, and we all knew it. It was just keep doing what you're doing. You're going to get there.
Yep.
I just keep doing what you're doing. You'll get there.
All right. We're running really long on time, so real quick here, Jared, on some of these questions here.
Lightning around the Ask Sloopcast.
Buckeye Zach, how much beer will Nomad be drinking by the end of Sunday's show?
Hopefully none, because it's because we're recording early this week.
Yes. Nomad, over under Henderson rushing for yards this year, and he said it at 600.
I'm going to go over. I think Henderson is starting by the end of the year.
Yes.
Not at the beginning of the year, but by the end of the year. Even if he's not starting, I think when we look back on this season, Henderson has the most carries. That's my prediction. So I'm going to say over 600 yards. By the way, real quick, on the Buckeye Weekly with Tony and Tom, they had Tony asked Tom the question, what is more likely? Henderson has 300 yards. Henderson has 1,300 yards. You have to pick. Yeah.
That's a fantastic question.
Yeah, it really was. Tony.
I don't like either, but which one?
Right. And I think I'm going to go with what Tom said, because Tom said we always have to count injury as a thing. So I'm going to go with 300. And I think it's going to be such a committee this year, like we've never really seen at Ohio State in a very long time, where you're going to see a lot of different running backs get carries, that I feel like any one running back getting to 13 feels unlikely.
Yeah, that's kind of my thought too. There's so many great talent that needs to get on the field. There's just only 11 can get on there at once.
Yeah. And a lot of them are going to be receivers this year.
Let's see here. Kabuto says on a scale of drinking milk in khakis to Holy Buckeye, how excited are you for next year's Stroud, McCord, Ewers quarterback battle?
I'm
more worried about this year before I start looking at next year. It's going to be fantastic. I mean, everything I'm seeing for all three of these quarterbacks, it is just an amazing pool that Ohio State's getting in with quarterbacks, wide receivers too, but quarterbacks here. It's just, it sucks that only one,
by the way,
can be on the field.
It's way too early to say. It's just like, there doesn't seem to be any university in the lead yet, but Ohio State's in play for the best quarterback of the 2023 class as well. You might know his family. His last name's Manning.
Maybe.
I'm just saying Ohio State's in play. I'm not Ohio State's in play. That's all I'm saying. It's too early to say anything more than that.
Yep. All right. That's it, Jared. That's all we have time for today.
We got one from everyone who asked one. So yeah, that's all we have time for. That's it. As Kyle said, we're going long on time. So just go to thesloopcast.com, find some links and click on them and just see what happens. Guys, we are wanting to, I haven't talked about this in a while. We are wanting to expand the Sloopcast into a daily show during the football season, but we need a financial investment from people listening to achieve that. And you can help us out on patreon.thesloopcast.com. Our lowest tier technically we have a $1 tier. The $1 tier just doesn't get you any benefits. But at the $3 tier, you can get premium access to our Discord, which there's channels in our Discord. The Discord one is public. Anyone can join the Discord, discord.thesloopcast.com. But there are premium channels within the Discord that you can talk to us in and, maybe just be away from maybe the general noise of the rest of the Discord. And you can get access to that for as little as $3 a month. You get early access to episodes. You can listen in live while we record this and join Stuart and Buckeye Zach and some of the other guys down there who are chatting during the show, giving live feedback. I feel like it's a lot of cool stuff for just $3 a month, and you're helping us sort of reach that goal of doing this daily, which is a thing I'd like to do, but for the amount of time it's going to take us, I need to be able to justify the amount of time it's going to take us with some financial assistance. So please check that out. Again, you can do it for as little as $1 a month, but you get a lot of cool benefits at $3. So maybe check out that $3. And that's t-shirts. I'm wearing something from the 7071 store right now. This is the Columbus Panhandles, which, if you don't know, was an original NFL team based out of Columbus, Ohio. Obviously now defunct, but they existed. And so now you can buy a t-shirt from the 7071 store, 7071.thesloopcast.com. And Kyle's wearing some of our Sloopcast merch right now with a beautifully designed logo, I must say. Wow. That's a beautiful logo. Why would anyone ever move away from that logo? It's so beautiful.
Or this one here.
All right. Those jokes are for the those are for the YouTube people. Sorry, audio only listeners. Those were crew jokes. If you're wondering, those were crew jokes. So speaking of the crew, Kyle, what is in Kyle's corner?
This right here, the crew.
The crew.
The crew. Oh man, it was
what a week. What a 2 weeks.
What a week, and the game was awful. It was awful, especially the first half. And I posted something in our Discord. I just was in disgust of how they were playing. And then
I actually tweeted at one point after the first free kick that went in the goal. I actually said on Twitter, still up there, I didn't delete it. I go, a tie would feel like a win right now because they played terrible, especially in the first half. Then they get the equalizer. And it's just Lucas's, awesome. Let's get this tie.
Goal there. Yeah, Lucas' goal, that second free kick, money. That is a thing of beauty that should be played like every week. Like that's going to be up there like goals for
Kyle,
the year.
His first free kick. His first free kick wasn't his best free kick of the game. His second free kick was prettier in my opinion.
Yes, the second one. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Did I say the first? I meant the second.
I think you said the first, but I don't.
The second kick that goes over the wall and just gets right inside there. The first one was nice too. I mean, goalie was out of position. I'll take that any day, but it just kisses the top of the bar in there.
I also don't understand why they didn't have more people a part of the wall in like directly in.
That's on the keeper. That's on the keeper. But hey, yeah. the crew wins 2 in a row here. They win the logo.
However, Columbus SC dropped 2 games last week.
Yes, the crew SC lost. The Columbus crew
undefeated
win. They win. All right, that's it. We're long on time here, but that's all I got, Jared.
All right. Yeah. So I think that's everything. Just crew update, crew drama update. We're back to Columbus crew. We dropped the SC, which is a win. We still have the new shitty logo. They replaced the stupid triangle with a significantly less stupid 96. So you're getting some history in the stupid modern logo. And it's just like we got the crew back as the official name. So we're just going to count it as a win and we'll deal with the ugly shield for a few years until they replace it. I feel like we're just going to have to deal with it. Kyle, over under new shield 2.5 years.
I'm going to go as much as I want to say under. I think it's going to be over.
Yeah. I think it's probably 3 or 4 years. We're going to have to deal with that atrocity of a logo until we either revert to something old or get something even new.
I'd put the over under at 4.5.
I'd go under on 4.5.
All right.
Yeah. So that's it on the crew drama update. We're no longer mad at the crew, like we said last week. And tonight's ending music will be brought to you by I believe it is a Cleveland-based artist. I know he's signed to Flower Pot Records, which is a Cleveland-based record company. But he's definitely Ohio-based. His name is Joseph Maxwell. The name of this song is Myself, not Myself. Myself. There's a space in there. It's on purpose. I didn't typo it if you're looking at the notes. So yeah, Joseph Maxwell, name of the song is Myself. And you can, if you're listening to the audio only version of this, you can stick around and hear that song. And if you're not listening to the audio only version of this, then you're about to get some bonus chat content on the YouTube channel. So with all of that being said, I'd like to encourage everyone to drink local beer, listen to local music, and of course, support your local podcasters. Once again, this is Joseph Maxwell. Flower Pot. Hi, YouTube people. Flower Pot's actually out of not Cleveland. What's It's one of their bigger suburbs. I'm blanking on the name.
Akron?
Akron people are pissed you just called them a suburb of Cleveland. They're pissed at you right now. That is blasphemous. They are so mad at you right now.
I have
Parma. It's Parma.
I have Youngstown. I have Youngstown on my mind, which there's a
also shooting. Not a suburb.
I know they're not, but I just
Parma. Yeah. Parma. That's what it is. Parma, Ohio.
I'm not familiar. I'm not familiar with Cleveland suburbs, so
sorry, I'm not super familiar either. But I feel like Parma's one of the ones I definitely. It's one of the bigger ones. And I think anyway. I don't know a ton about the Cleveland metro outside of Cleveland either. Kyle, this is the worst bonus content conversation episode. We blew it on the first bonus content. We're blowing it on the second bonus content. YouTube people are not getting their bonus content that they deserve from us right now. Nothing? You got nothing to say to that?
Sorry.
Well, I mean, it's not like you were going to save it.
But we did save the crew.
Again, 2 times.
Save the crew part 2. All right, let's jump into the end, Jared.
All right. I want to thank Joseph Maxwell for ending today's show. I want to thank Duncan from the Discord for basically designing this episode for us with his wonderful Wasteland question. And I want to thank the Iron Bean Coffee Company for sponsoring today's show. I name checked the Loki last time. This is coffee like a Viking. I wanted to give the other side of it. Because we talked about the black roast, the Fear No Evil black roast on the last ad read. So let's go on the opposite side of the spectrum. This is the lightest coffee that you can get over at ironbeancoffe.com. It's a light medium, a medium light, however you want to say it. It is, I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm going to try because it's the Sloopcast and that's what we do. We fail horribly at announcing things. Yurgachefi. I feel like I made that way too European. One of the most renowned coffees in the world. Wet process blend is higher in caffeine, lower in acidity, rich tasting, filled with fragrance. Citrus and floral are the dominant taste in this blend. It's an Ethiopian, fully washed, the Iron Bean Coffee's Loki is a light roast coffee made with 100% Arabica beans to give you the edge and confidence to slay your day. USDA certified and fair trade certified, USD organic certified. It's almost the end of the show. Just work with me here, everyone. It ensures you get the highest quality beans that are available to you probably anywhere in the state of Ohio. Tastes smooth, never bitter, subtle notes of citrus and floral, 100% natural. Do not compromise with any additives. This is, once again, the Loki, the lightest. If you're into light roast or medium roast, lighter than medium roast coffees, then this is your go-to over at ironbeancoffe.com. That's Iron Bean Coffee, America's local coffee roaster.
This episode was also brought to you by our good friends over at the Mad Canadian Barbecue Company. Went into the Discord in our middle of the show. I'm going to go into the two-border. Two-border is another one. You see two-border and you're like, what is that? What is a two-border? Well, I will tell you, this is their flagship seasoning. So you know it's good if they're coming out right out and just putting it right on their description. Flagship seasoning, the two-border. It's a great mix of maple sugar, red pepper flakes that they use on all of their ribs. So if you're going out to any of his food trucks, which, by the way, check out his social media to figure out where he and his food truck are heading to next. He uses the two-border on all of their ribs. So if you want to know, I wonder what seasoning is this ribs? It's the two-border. That maple sugar that gives a clean, crisp, sweet flavor, while that red pepper flake adds that right amount of heat to that pork. as Jared can contest here too, goes great on eggs as well.
Absolutely. And bacon. The entire breakfast. And just all over the entire breakfast.
Everything. You got your plate of breakfast, you just put it all on.
And if you like spicy waffles, go for that too.
Yes. Check out that seasoning and much, much more over at themadkennybbq.com. That is themadkennybbq.com. Again, social medias for his food trucks, any other announcements he has to say on there as well. Use that promo code SloopCast10 at checkout for 10% off your entire order. Mad Kenny Barbecue Company, where he has your butt covered.